So what I did was from your website, I think it's somewhere I can show also. Yeah, it's here. So I got this, sir. This, if you can see, this is like. So what I did was I got your Word document. Yours was a PDF of previous year questions, very neatly, thematically designed. It saved my time. What I did was I converted it into Word document. I added 5 space below each question, and I wrote 5 points for each question's answer.
Yes, Chaitanya, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Very good. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chaitanya. So first, let me say, sorry because we could not identify you at the first time. Okay, once we saw your video, then we searched our database. Then only, we got your number and email and we contacted you. Okay,
That's all.
congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you so much, sir.
So this video, right? The purpose is again to help the law option. So we will be sticking ourselves to the law option itself. Okay, nothing else. We try to be
Right.
comprehensive with your answers so that it will help the candidates. Okay.
Right.
So let us start with the first thing first. That tell me about yourself first.
My name is Chaitanya Awasthi. I'm originally from Kanpur, but because my father was in journalism, so we spent my greater part of my childhood moving across the country. And I graduated from National Law University, Kolkata, NUJS, in BLLB honors. And thereafter, I appeared for civil services examinations last year. It was my first attempt. And I secured the All India rank 37 in the examination.
Okay, so you were, I think, the second topper this time with the law optional, right?
I don't know, sir. I've never kept a track of.
Yeah, you are the second one. Okay, that I think Kritika was 14, then you are the second. Okay, how much marks did you get, Chetan?
So overall in law, my marks were 275.
Okay.
141 in paper 1 and 134 in paper 2. I think so.
No problem. And how did you started with the study of law optional along with the college, or after graduation you started with the study? What was the approach that you started?
No, so actually for civil services, I did not start with college itself. It wasn't like I was preparing for civil services with college itself. So it never came across my mind that I should prepare my notes for law in a particular way. I was just doing my graduation. I was focusing on that. And during my prep, obviously, I then shifted the gears to law optional preparation as per se, because what we study in the 5-year BA/LLB honors course is very different. Although the content is same, but even the answer writing is different, and somehow the nuances are different. What civil services expects from an administrative officer is not the same what is expected from a lawyer or a student of judiciary.
Yeah.
So that's
I
when
always tell, do not club the preparation of both, right? So if you're going for judiciary, you should go for that, and if you're going for this, go for that. Very, very
yeah, it's very harmful if one does so. And so once I started preparing for the civil services examination, then I chose, once I was decided that law is my optional, I drew up a schedule. I took out the syllabus and then I accorded it to a particular time. I personally had 11 months to prepare. So I decided that from around November or December till January, I will, include law optional study in my schedule. And accordingly, I did that. It did not mean that I would devote the entire day to law optional. My GS would go on, but a greater number of hours were then in those months reserved for law optional.
Okay, so you're saying
So
that
that's how.
till October, November you prepared for the optional, and after that you went for prelims itself.
No. Till October, November, it was completely GS. From November, I started including law optional, and then 3 months I gave a greater weightage to law optional. Once I was comfortable with the GS.
And for the prelims, that last 3 months before
Then last 3 months, because prelims is basically what GS you've been studying for the entire year. That only in bullet forms you have to concise it up.
Understood. So I sort of understood it wrongly. Okay. Now let us come to the first subject. How did you prepare? That is your constitutional. What resources you referred? Did you read the judgments? So obviously that is not required, but still, people do ask. They have this question that do we have to read judgments, etc. Please.
No, sir. In constitutional law, sir, let me just list out the resources and then I can tell you how I went about it. My resources are primarily my college notes. And secondly, there are some books by Ashok Jain and some judiciary or some guide books. Dukis, yes, in common parlance, Dukis. So there were Dukis. And thirdly, in certain topics, very selective, there is MP Jain and other advanced books which you can, DD Basu or other books, but very selective. I used to listen to law optional toppers telling very selective, and then they used to tell which is a selective bit. So I used to get confused कि इतनी मोटी book है इसमें से पढ़े क्या DD Basu or MP Jain. But go for fundamental rights, things which required very strong foundational understanding. Those topics you understand from there. If you want a good idea of basic structure, you can read from there. But don't keep it like a Bible on your shelf, because you won't be able to complete it, let alone GS. So that was constitutional law. Answer a soft corner from my college also has been for constitutional law, so it came naturally to me a little bit. So these resources were enough for me.
Okay. You see, with regard to this MP Jain, I keep tell a student that if you go and study MP Jain, it itself will take 2 years to study, right? So
And definitely, and it's very expensive also. I though can't afford it. I don't know anybody who around me who had afforded it for 1 year. So I used to just get snippets of PDF from online, and there were some topper notes also from de facto. Also, I got some notes. Topper notes were there. Those were also helpful.
Okay. Now, this philosophical question, right, that we have in constitutional law, how did you handle that? Did you put in a lot of quotes or a lot of judgments, or simply some good lines from the judgments? How did you go about it?
So it was a mixed bag.
Question like, sort of, do you think fundamental right have changed the landscape, or do you think basic structure has, something, very philosophical type of.
So it was a mixed bag. Yes, quotes are very helpful, because Chaitanya Awasthi saying something does not make sense much. I have not achieved much in life. But Nani Palkewala saying something is obviously, even if we say the same thing, but if it has the name of Nani Palkewala attached, obviously because of the experience and the effort he has put in, his words hold value. And that augment your answer, they enrich your answer. So yes, quotes are definitely, especially in philosophical questions where it is opinion based, or where it is, asking about a current situation in law which is not settled. Their opinions help. That show that you have a diversity of opinions and diversity of knowledge with yourself, and you are not constrained in one specific sphere. As far as judgments are, certain snippets here and there, but nothing per se from the judgments as such. Yes, certain references were made to cases, but nothing out of the judgments I at least put in my answers in this year's paper. In practices, yes, obviously we do a lot of things, but a lot depends on what clicks at your mind at that time when you're answering,
Yaad kya rehta hai? That I agree. Okay, now administrative law, because people often study the whole semester of administrative law, right? But here we have only 4-5 topics. So how did you handle that?
So I just took out the syllabus and I cut the administrative law part away and I posted it on my wall. And so I knew what I had to study. So once that scope is limited, then your content also is. You pick up a good dukki, and I think very frankly and very honestly, that is enough, more than enough for administrative. And more than anything, administrative law is natural justice. So anybody who gets the idea of natural justice, he can put it into administrative law anywhere.
And also, if there's a rule of law question, you can sort of combine them, right? Any question actually.
You can combine them, yes, because administrative law is a wide thing. It just has everything from here and there.
Very good. Okay, now let us come to international law question. This here was fairly simple. I agree, right? So how did you wrote the traditional dukki itself, or did you do something extra in those answers?
No, traditional. So international. Am I audible now?
Please just start with
So for international law, basically, I had few electives in my college, so my notes were there. But for topics like nature of international law and the recognition, state recognition, and these theory-based things, I went for some topper notes and some help from the dukki, and it was also more than enough, I think, because in this paper they're not trying to find legal scholars. They are trying to find people who have a good grasp of law, who, when time comes, can utilize that grasp for implementation. And I think the objective of the examination should be very much borne in mind, that this is an examination for government officers and not for, legally scholars or judiciary, which require a very in-depth understanding of everything. So that has to be borne in mind. So international law, that was enough. And I prepared a short Word document of 4 or 5 pages in which I summarized the entire international law. For example, if there are definitions of international law, in one column, I wrote the author or the scholar, and then 5 bullet points of his definition. So Stark, then Schwarzenegger or Austin. So I had the bullet points, and at the end day, I just revised those 5 pages, and international law was done.
That is, I think, a very good resources that you have created. You please do send me. I will share that with the students. Okay. Now, because you are not going to, appear again, so obviously that will help others. Okay.
No, sure. Anything that helps the fellow aspirants is more than enough.
Now let us come to the paper 2, right? First, tell me about paper 1 again. That which part did you opted that 150 marks from, part A or part B?
So I think it was part A. Part A.
Part A you did one. Okay. Now what about the paper 2? Which part did you opted that 3 questions?
I think again part A, sir.
Part A. So how did you prepare with this law of crime?
So, law of crimes, what I did was I first went through, I had Ratanlal, Dheerajlal in my law school, which I had studied. So I had a bit of highlighted portions from that. But I think that paper 2 is more about analysis. For example, common intention, 34 and 120 and everything gets very jumbled up. They are very culpable homicide versus murder and these and that. So UPSC is very interested in all these things. Sometimes they try to test you on that. Other than that, IPC has a lot of factual things. You have sections and you have case laws. So again, I prepared a PDF in which there was the section, what the section is about, and 3 case laws, 2 saying the established position of law and 1 saying the opposite, which is the contrary view or the minority view, you can say. Not in all sections, but in most sections I tried to do so.
It means
And at the
MH George case, very dissenting opinion of Subbarao, yeah, something like
yes. MS George case was there and so on and so forth regarding mens rea and everything. So accordingly, I did this. Again, the whole thing is about clubbing the syllabus into small pages which you can revise later on. So I prepared short notes and then I shortened them further before my mains examination. So whatever 50-page notes I had of IPC, I clubbed them into 5 pages before the end, and then I did.
that you can, when you revise. Okay.
Yes, revision becomes easy and then it sticks also.
Very good. Okay, now law of tort. Again, law of tort, which resources that you referred and what strategy you followed?
So law of torts, I think it was I'm not very sure. I think Bangia or some book. It was a hardcover book, so I don't even know the author. But it was a very simple, very small book. And torts is mostly common sense. If you know the doctrines, then you can know. Unless until you are absolutely alien to the terminology, then torts might become difficult. But if you know what is strict liability, what is absolute liability, it becomes easy. You can just put Rylance Fletcher, and you need to know the case laws, and you can subscribe it. So I think there's no need to create a very big brouhaha about torts. Torts is manageable and it's scoring, very scoring if you can cover it.
All the good points. Okay. Now the CLD part, I mean the part 2, first start with the CLD part. How did you cover the CLD? Because people often ask me that, so how do we study that whole CLD? There are multiple acts. In fact, people who are from non-law background, they opt for law options. Once they see environmental laws of India and they Google environmental laws of India, they get 23, 24 acts.
Right.
They thought of that, okay, what is this? We cannot study all of it, right? So what strategy that you followed?
On that note, sir, I think this year's paper, although the section is specifically called contemporary legal developments, but if you see in paper 1 also, those were also contemporary legal developments. There were questions on governor, there were questions on basic structure. Whatever was happening on news, a legal question was made out of it. So yes, I understand that this is the section where contemporary legal developments, but we are seeing that in law now, current affairs is playing a big role. Whatever incidents are happening through 1 year, unka legal aspect they ask. So contemporary legal developments, the topic is very wide. My sources were internet, some toppers notes. I think it was Jaidev Sir's note, if I'm not wrong. So internet, Jaidev Sir's notes, and so whatever current affairs magazine you read, while you're preparing for GS 1, 2, 3, 4, a large portion of CLD gets covered. For example, if you talk about environmental acts, for 1 year, you are reading about EPA, Water Act, Air Act, Forest Rights Act. So all these
are framed under them. That also becomes quite important for
yes, and that becomes important. For example, IT rules and everything. These are you are reading from GS 1, 2, 3, 4 continuously. You are reading throughout the year, and then you just add a legal touch to it. You write Puttaswamy in your answer. You write another Aadhaar Act, Aadhaar case judgment in your answer, and that becomes a legal answer for you. So that is contemporary legal developments. Internet.
Cleverly, you have handled that CLD part. I think.
Right, sir.
That's very good. Okay, now let us come to the law of contract, because in law of contract specifically, individual acts such as sales of goods, partnership, negotiable instrument. How did you handle that?
So first I cemented my basics. I made crisp notes about the formation of contracts, the requirements of contracts, then what is the difference between wagering or contingency contracts and so on and so forth. So these basics, once they were covered, then I moved on to the Sales of Goods Act, in which I mostly stuck to definitions. what is agency, what is hire fire, what is partnership, and so on and so forth. And I think in sales of goods acts and partnership, I did not do much case laws also. I was stuck with the law. I knew with clarity what the law is and what analytical aspects of the law are. I did not too much worry about the case laws, because I've always believed, even during law school, that case laws are something which, if they are very iconic, they should be remembered. Yes, everybody should know what Keshavanand Bharti is, but I'm not sure everybody should know what A versus C is, because that becomes rote learning. You have your legal books at your disposal. When you'll be a lawyer also, you'll have access to those things, so no need to mug those up. Iconic cases, yes, remember, but law is more important. You should know the law. You should have clarity on what the law is. And contracts is also like that. So you should know the important, like Carlisle versus Smokeball. You should know, iconic case, no doubt. But you should not know Priya versus State of Maharashtra and so on and so forth.
That keeps coming, which is not much.
That keeps coming. Yes. So you know the concept. The concept is the foundation. And I think if you know the concepts, contracts is a good subject. It's not scary.
Very correct. Okay, so another thing that people often ask, that law optional is quite low scoring, right? I often keep telling them that is not the case. Multiple candidates who come to me, right? Now, this year answers, I was looking at that group of interview, those who were appearing for interview, all the students. So in that, some of them recently said that please post your number, right? So I was looking at all their numbers was 250, those who do not qualify, those who qualified 270 to 286. 286 is the highest, right? So what about the student who are law graduates specifically, not about non-law? If they have this query to you that it is not very scoring optional, what will you answer?
So I have one very simple answer, for not just law optional, but for anybody who does this kind of over analysis on this is the set of percentage that is qualified. I find it very distasteful to, measure an examination by such metrics. I think it is a wasteful analysis. I'll tell you why. Because if you go by this logic, then you should not appear for this examination at all. If you go by percentages, then only 0.1 decimal percent people succeed. So if that is your mentality and that is your way of thinking, then you should, in the first place, ditch the examination, let alone optional, if that is your reasoning. So I'm very against these people who overanalyze and say that optional may you go by 50% selection. No, not true. Even if 20% are getting selected from law, I want to be in that 20%. What's the harm? So that was my mentality regarding law optional. And I don't think it's a low scoring option. I know from what I've written, I could have scored much more. I did not pay much attention to certain aspects in my preparation. And if I would have cemented it, I would have scored it even better. So don't be scared. Even for law graduates, especially, my father was a history graduate. And unfortunately, he passed away during the starting of my preparation. So when we had planned the preparation, he had said that take history as your optional. So I said, no, I don't want to go into something new. Law is a area of comfort for me, something that I've read for 3 or 5 years, right? Even if you're doing only LLB. So अगर कुछ भी नहीं आता होगा पेपर में, कुछ वर्ड्स, हाँ, कुछ वर्ड्स और टर्म्स और सेक्शंस ऐसे होंगे जो आपकी मेमोरी को क्लिक करेंगे. आप आधा पेज लिख लोगे, आप चाहे जितने खराब वकील क्यों ना हो. आप लॉयर हो तो आप शब्दों के
इररिलेवेंट आंसर नहीं होगा, कुछ ना कुछ रेलेवेंट होगा.
आपने अगर 3 साल लॉ करी तो आपको शब्दों से खेलना आता ही आता है. तो आपका कुछ भी नहीं आता होगा तो आप ब्लैंक नहीं छोड़ के आओगे. दैट इज योर स्ट्रेंथ. सो वर्क ऑन योर स्ट्रेंथ्स ऑलवेज. दैट इज व्हाट आई से. But one handicap is when you come from 5 years of law prep, one handicap is your answer writing becomes very technical and law kind, and UPSC hates that. So my first answer that I wrote, I realized that इसमें तो लिखा सब था, कंटेंट सब था, लेकिन 0 नंबर मिलेंगे क्योंकि बहुत खराब तरीके से लिखा था. मैंने लॉयर की तरीके से लिखा था. उसमें बुलेट पॉइंट्स नहीं थे, उसमें से हाईलाइट नहीं किया था मैंने जो केस है. मैंने पैराग्राफ्स लिखे थे और बहुत ज्यादा टेक्निकली एनालाइज कर दिया था जब वो लोग मुझे पॉलिसी वाइज एनालाइज कराना चाह रहे थे. तो वो थोड़ा सा एक क्वेश्चन रखिएगा जो लॉ स्टूडेंट्स हैं. डोंट बिकम अ लॉयर इन दैट रूम. यू डोंट हैव टू बी अ लॉयर. यू आर नॉट गिविंग एन एग्जाम फॉर लॉ. Analyze it as per the demand of the question and not as per what has been taught to you in law school.
That is a really very good advice. This particular,
yes, so that's
okay. Now you have been through a very tough journey, as I can see, right? So many people, often either out of not very from good family background, right? They want to pursue this UPSC, especially with the law, and they are unable to sometime, even buy books, right? So any message for them that can they study by themselves and qualify this exam if they don't, if they can't afford, right? Or they need materials that they can refer, very crisp material that they can refer so that it do not cost them any money, or At least
So see, I very much believe in giving credit where it is due. So where de facto has helped me, I'll say where de facto has helped me. I've not been a regular student, but I have obviously utilized your resources. So I'm very proud to, often attribute where the credit is due. So I always take names of the toppers who have helped me during my preparation. For example, Jaydev sir's notes, they were a great deal to me. They helped me a lot in concising my notes. I saw his notes, how concise his were, and then I tailored my notes. It did not mean that I copied his notes, but I tailored my notes like that. So similarly, one big resource that was very helpful was, I think on your website, you have thematic questions, previous year questions. And we see in law, questions repeat नहीं होंगे, theme repeat होगा. You take it for granted because syllabus इतना direct है. They can't ask you out of it, no. अगर उसमें लिखा हुआ है इंटरनेशनल लॉ में कि प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ इंटरनेशनल या डेफिनेशंस ऑफ या नेचर ऑफ इंटरनेशनल लॉ, तो नेचर से ही पूछेंगे ना, क्वेश्चन बदल देंगे, कभी श्वार्ज़वेंगर का पूछ लेंगे, कभी हार्ट पूछ लेंगे, क्वेश्चन वही रहे. So what I did was from your website, I think it's somewhere I can show also. Yeah, it's here. So I got this, sir. This, if you can see, this is like. So what I did was I got your Word document. Yours was a PDF of previous year questions, very neatly, thematically designed. It saved my time. What I did was I converted into Word document. I added 5 space below each question, and I wrote 5 points for each question's answer. So I had this. This cost me around $50. This entire thing. This is your question thing, and it contains questions and answers. This became my revision booklet for international law.
Do one thing, you scan it and send it to me. Definitely do.
Fine, sir.
Okay.
Fine, sir. I can scan like few pages of it.
Yeah, I will put it on the
Anybody
website.
can do it. I think if you're resourceful, you just go. There are lots of resources. I'm not saying that go to de facto. When I searched law optional, de facto came. That was my luck, right? Anything that comes, you utilize the resources. Whatever is available for free, that has been put for free for you only, right? So if it's helping me, I'm also putting out this message so that it might help others. Go to the websites, get whatever you can free, customize it. This was Sir's document was one question after another. I just added 5 spaces to it, and then in my own handwriting wrote 5 points answers. So it became a revision booklet for me. And now it's worth more than any other expensive book for me, for at least for UPSC prep. So that's how I think, be resourceful and let not constraint of resources be a roadblock, because there are lots of people out there on the internet and everything to help you with resources and everything. So don't take that load onto you.
Now, the last question I will be asking, right, that what are the websites, legal websites that you specifically referred, apart from Live Law is the very popular one, I understand. Apart from website, any new things that you come up with?
No, sir. I've always been a believer of too many cooks spoil the dish वाला system. कि अगर ज़्यादा resources कर लो तो खाना नहीं अच्छा बनता, ज़्यादा बावर्ची हो जाए तो. So I keep it very limited. De facto was one because I didn't have any UPSC specific law wala side. I don't think there is also, which is specifically dedicated to UPSC. So de facto was one. Second was I think live law, as you have already said. And at times Legally India or something other, if I'm unable to find somewhere or the other, but no such website, no such blog I followed for law. This much resource was enough. I always told myself that if I do this religiously, that is too big an achievement, let alone all other resources. इतना ही अगर आप अच्छे से कर लो, आपको GS 1 2 3 4 भी करना है, आपको SC भी करना है, सिर्फ आपको लॉ में 500 नंबर नहीं लाके आप ना वो आप निकाल लोगे. तो keep it limited and be honest to your preparation. I think that is enough for this exam.
Thank you very much, Chaitanya. Really, very, much more comprehensive discussion. Out of all discussion, I must say this is the most comprehensive discussion. Okay.
Thank you.
And we will talk further, okay, on phone, right?
Definitely,
so let's end this interview here itself, okay?
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon.